How's it going, everyone? My name is George, and today we are continuing the Kevin Smith review series with Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. This is the 2001 View Askew Universe film that was meant to conclude this universe, but obviously it didn't because 5 years later we had gotten Clerks 2. But yes, this is basically what was seen at the time the film to bring everything together. And this isn't the fourth film in this universe. Technically, it's Dogma, but as I said in my Chasing Amy review, the Dogma review is going to have to wait because it's a very hard movie to find and to watch. So, once I get a chance to watch it, even if it's after this review series is done, I will review Dogma on this channel. But until then, we're just going to continue this review series and we're continuing it with Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. So, this film stars Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith as Jay and Silent Bob, and as well as other actors and characters from the other movies, whether it be Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson returning from Clerks, to Jason Lee and Ben Affleck returning from Chasing Amy. And basically, in this film, what happens is Jay and Silent Bob get a restraining order. They're no longer allowed near the quick stop, so they need some money. And they find out that they're making a Blunt Man and Chronic film. And they are entitled to that movie. So they go all the way to Hollywood to get that money to get the right stuff taken care of. And on the way, they meet interesting people, including this girl named Justice, played by Shannon Elizabeth, who Jay falls in love with, and even goes so far as to doing something for them, including taking a monkey. But ultimately, Jay and Silent Bob go on the run, and they are being framed for being terrorists. So basically, we have our Jay and Silent Bob adventure, and something like this only Kevin Smith can pull off with characters like Jay and Silent Bob. These are very hilarious characters. Kevin Smith is a very hilarious director, and the style of humor, as I've said before, if you're if you like that style of humor, you're going to love this movie. If not, and this goes for any Kevin Smith film just in general, not just Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, but movies like Clerks, Chasing Amy, Mallrats, Dogma, Clerks 2, you may not be this movie may not be for you. Now, this movie is also similar to Mallrats, where this is a heavy like this film is heavy on comedy. This film is heavy on laughs. And I feel like for a movie starring Jay and Silent Bob, that makes sense because they've basically been the comedic relief of these Askew Universe movies. And even after this film, they remain to be that. But at the same time, sometimes it does kind of hinder the story. Like, this isn't a bad movie. I've always enjoyed all these movies. But it's definitely one of the weaker ones, in my opinion. I feel like movies like Clerks and Chasing Amy are strong when they're not just funny, but also have great stories that don't lose focus, that don't lose focus to focus on the laughs. Like, yeah, this movie is very hilarious still. But one of the things that I didn't quite that kind of annoyed me with this film, it's always those moments where like they say something and then they look at the audience. It's like I feel like Kevin Smith's better than that. Like I feel like that's like the oldest trick in the book. Like for example, when they're talking about who wants to make a movie about who wants to watch a movie about Jay and Silent Bob and they all look at you the audience or us the audience. I don't know, stuff like that I've never really found all that funny. But overall the jokes do work in this film. Um, Jason Mewes is basically the star of this film. As Jay, he's doing a lot of the talking. And usually, a film like this, you would be worried about, especially today, because when they make movies on the comedic relief characters, it doesn't always work out so well. But it does work in this film. They make it work with having Jay and Silent Bob, especially because Jay talks a lot and Silent Bob only has like one line of dialogue in this film. But they make it work. And the other characters, it's always great to see characters like Dante and Randall return, as well as Brody, Holden, and Banky. It's great to see these characters, even though they're in much smaller roles. But I like the callbacks that Kevin Smith does. And the thing that I like with Kevin Smith's Askew Universe films is that he doesn't drag on the throwbacks or the Easter eggs. Like, he gets to them and then he gets right to the next thing. And that's something that I've also addressed in my Chasing Amy review. from yesterday. How like yeah, you have these callbacks to Clerks, but like they don't drag on. They move on to the next thing. So I like that Kevin Smith is still getting right to the other things. And I love how like this film does go into bigger places. They're leaving New Jersey to go all the way to Hollywood, and they get into some antics. There's like a parody Scooby Doo gang that give Jay a nightmare. That was pretty funny. But I also like how like this film like is also like it's kind of where you kind of see some of Miramax at the time. You see Wes Craven, the director of the Scream movies and Nightmare on Elm Street. You also see them like them going into Good Will Hunting. You see Ben Affleck and Matt Damon also doing that. So I like how they're like also calling back to like other Miramax movies and franchises, not just the Universe films. And also, it's kind of addressing what was a beginning trend of the time, which was the rise of comic book movies. They addressed how like X-Men was successful and now studios want to make all these superhero films. And now it's funny because 21 years 1 years later after this film comes out, we've got so many comic book movies. It's crazy. So I like how like they also were addressing what was a beginning trend at the time. This film came out like I said in 2001. So this came out a year after X-Men, but also a year before the first Spider-Man film. So, and we know Kevin Smith, like if you don't know by now, Kevin Smith is one of the biggest nerds on the planet. Like he loves pop culture, he loves superhero movies. So, it's no surprise that like he would address something like that in this film, especially because like I said that was a trend that was growing at the time. And overall, we also have Mark Hamill in this film playing the Blunt Man and Chronic villain. You got some callbacks to Star Wars in there as well. So it's not even just Miramax they're like calling back. They're calling back to like other franchises. Like I said, you had the parody Scooby Doo gang. So overall, with Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, I find this to be a very funny movie. I very much enjoy it. It's not my favorite of the Universe films. It's great to see other actors also in this film. You've got Will Ferrell playing as this ranger that's trailing on Jay and Silent Bob. That was funny to see. You also have Chris Rock playing the Blunt Man and Chronic director. He was pretty funny as well. And you also have Jamie Kennedy from the Screen movies also like playing like the coffee guy during the Blunt Man and Chronic film. So like you got all these actors that were in either in other previous Kevin Smith movies or previous Miramax movies coming in, and overall, it's not the best conclusion or what they saw as a conclusion at the time, but it was still a very funny film. And I think what might have been seen as a risk at the time, making Jay and Silent Bob the main characters of a movie, I think paid off at the end. They were able to hold their own movie. And considering some of the things that Kevin Smith said about filming this movie, because he said it was a big headache doing this movie, because at the time Jason Mewes was going through a lot of like problems with drugs and alcohol, and Kevin Smith even said he was like a ticking bomb at some points. So there was a lot of stress going into this movie compared to the other movies. So Kevin Smith managed to pull it off, and overall, I'm gonna give Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back a B plus. I find this movie to be very hilarious, and also probably one of the few films that actually looks into the studio of Miramax. Like you got movies that are like aware of like studio that and examine studios like Disney or Warner Brothers, but it's like also interesting to see like some of the other studios that like may not be as popular but are pretty much still up there. But overall, guys, what did you think about Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Is it one of your least favorite films in the Universe? Out of the Universe movies? Let me know in the comments down below. And I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe already if you haven't. Please share us with someone that loves the Universe movies, that love Jay and Silent Bob. And I hope to see you guys real soon. The next film in the series is going to be Clerks 2, but before that, I'm going to be continuing the Harry Potter review series with Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. So that'll come out around either this weekend or next week. And I can't wait to talk about that movie as well. But I'll also talk about Clerks 2 next week if I don't get to it this weekend. So hope to see you guys real soon. Take care, everyone.